One of the lessons that you talk about in the book is around the subject of loneliness.
Hmm.
I feel that there's an epidemic amongst teenagers, retirees, middle-aged men, millennials. It's prolific in this country, Daniel. What is the role social media is playing in this epidemic?
Yeah, it's a big role. So to kind of put a little bit of a finer point on your excellent observation, in a lot of respects, things have never been better in this country. I mean, we've had high profile acts of violence here in Georgia very recently. That's sort of an ongoing tragedy in our country, which we should take very seriously and continue to address. But uh, writ large, there's never been a safer time in human history than right now. Never been a more prosperous time. And yet nobody seems to be very happy. When you look at Gen X and on down in terms of generations, Gen X and younger, at least 51% of those generations, so most people say that they are lonely, that they are socially isolated. And it gets in the low 70% when you get to the generation that's the age of like my oldest child, so teenagers. I can't remember what that generation is called now for the life of me, but maybe Gen Z, maybe. Anyway,
I think
but
so. I think it's Gen Z. They're Zoomers.
yeah. So you've got between 50 and 73% of middle age to young people saying they're lonely. And this isn't a high class problem. When you look at the data around this, this isn't just first world problems or, rich folks whining. The physical complications that come along with social isolation are incredibly bad. It's the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is twice as lethal as obesity in terms of its impacts on longevity. Like it's bad, bad, bad for you. So, what are the causes of this? I think the causes of this are myriad. I think part of it is the breakdown of a lot of what served as support structures historically. People trust government less. People trust institutions less. People are less religious. Like a lot of the sort of political, religious, and civic organizations that would have once been hubs for connection are now widely mistrusted. So I think that's a big piece of it. But I think social media, to your original question, I think social media also plays a big part. And there's a couple of things at play here. One is it gives people a false sense of what the world is like, because the tendency on social media is to just play the hits. Like we play all of our accomplishments, right? I mean, look, I'll roast myself. Like I posted about it on social media when I lost 50 pounds, but I did not post on it on social media for a decade and a half when I was overweight. Like, nobody like that didn't make it to LinkedIn, right? That like, hey, I had to get some new pants because the old ones don't fit. And so, I mean, this is just sort of how the world works, right? You get the 50-pound weight loss, but not the 50-pound weight gain. And multiply that times a million other sort of social interactions. And you and I are acutely aware of every insecurity, every screw up, every foible, every mistake. And meanwhile, we're seeing other people's greatest hits collection. And so we assume that other people have it more together and are more polished than they actually are. And there's a distance. There's a distance that comes with that. The other thing is, I think a lot of the most damning and damaging parts of modern life are what I'll call counterfeits, right? So I think social media is by and large a counterfeit form of connection. Like it's empty calories, to continue our theme here. It has like the look, taste, smell, feel of social connection without any of the substance. And so, it feels like you're connecting with people when you send them, 100 Snapchats a day of you vomiting a rainbow or something, but it doesn't, it doesn't have the same, it doesn't gratify or sate our needs for connection at the same level as a more fundamental human connection would.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Daniel, as somebody who has a decent social media footprint, I can tell you that as that grew, I felt less connected to my own personal network because of everything you just laid out. I wasn't picking up the phone and calling people as much as I used to because I felt like I was connected, and I just wasn't because it was all done through social media.
I think social media can be a catalyst for in-person connection, right? Like there are some very real and very rich relationships I enjoy in real life that have been started on social media, but we have to take it off the page, right? We have to take it off the screen for it to get good.
Yeah, and be very deliberate about it, which admittedly I've lacked doing that myself some.